It is clear that he has decided to do just that in these final hours in office to guard against any potential revenge by the incoming Trump administration, by the incoming President Trump. President Biden just announcing, as you note, that he is pardoning Dr. Anthony Fauci. Says in part, our nation relies on dedicated, selfless public servants every day. They are the lifeblood of our democracy. Yet alarmingly, he adds, public servants have been subjected to ongoing threats and intimidation that investigated the January 6th attack on the Capitol. That includes Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, Adam Kinzinger, among others, as well as Capitol and D.C. police who testified before that committee. I want to share with you part of what the president writes. He said,
"What if I told you that Biden just dropped the biggest plot twist in political history? It's like he's rewriting the ending of Game of Thrones, but with less dragons and more subpoenas."
In any wrongdoing, he says, nor should acceptance by them be misconstrued as any admission of guilt for any offense. He says our nation, quote, owes these public servants a debt of gratitude for faithfully discharging their duties. Notably, his last comments in this statement add that these pardons, he says, should not be mistaken as an acknowledgement that any individual engaged for their tireless commitment to our country. Now, let's back up for a moment. President Trump, incoming President Trump, as you know, has been a fierce critic and has really railed against so many of those individuals that are receiving these pardons today.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Most recently, in late December of last year, Donald Trump verbally attacked Liz Cheney, saying that she committed, quote, egregious and unthinkable acts of crime. That was December 22nd, less than a month ago, of Mark Milley,
NBC's senior Washington correspondent. Peter really raises the point that needs to be made here. There were sometimes explicit, sometimes implicit threats.
In the past, he suggested that he deserved execution, and the fact that some of the actions he had taken in the past would have been worthy of execution. So to be clear, Joe Biden, some of his final actions now to preemptively pardon some of those high-profile figures.
Picture this. Trump's sitting there, probably eating a Big Mac, thinking he's going to lock up half of Washington. Then, bam! Biden whips out his pardon pen faster than you can say "cov thief." But who exactly did he save from Trump's imaginary prison? Stick with me, because this list is wilder than Trump's hair in a windstorm. So there's our hero, Joe Biden, chilling in the Oval Office, probably trying to decide between chocolate chip and Rocky Road, when suddenly his superhero senses start tingling.
Serious threats against Liz Cheney, Mark Milley, and others by Trump or by members of his team. So this pardon potentially has real-life consequences for these individuals.
Not mince words. I said, you think Liz Cheney should go to jail? He said yes. Never said what the crime was, by the way, and since then has not laid out the crime. What's notable is that you have committee members like Liz Cheney, like Senator Adam Schiff saying, absolutely does. When I interviewed President-elect Trump in December, he was quite clear. He said, I think members of the January 6th committee should go to jail. He did not.
Looks like Trump's at it again, sharpening his Twitter fingers and threatening to lock up half of Washington. Biden's thinking, aw, malarkey, I can't let the bad orange man get my buddies. But here's the kicker. Saving democracy isn't as easy as it looks in the movies. Biden's scratching his head, wondering if he can fit all these Congress folks in his basement for protection. I mean, have you seen how many people were on that January 6th committee? It's like trying to cram a whole football team into a clown car. And get this, turns out pardoning people is harder than picking a flavor at Baskin-Robbins. Who knew, right? Biden's probably wishing he'd paid more attention in his Presidential Powers 101 class.
So this is a significant historic moment because it speaks to the concerns about the threats of legal repercussions that the January 6th committee and all of the other folks, you don't want a pardon. But here's the key thing to know. Once the president issues these pardons, that's it. You don't get to reject it. The pardon is there. And so
he's sweating bullets. The clock's ticking and Trump's probably already measuring for orange jumpsuits. Talk about a nail biter. But just when all hope seems lost, our man Joe remembers he's got a secret weapon. That's right, folks. It's the almighty presidential pardon pen. And boy, does he put it to work. Biden starts scribbling away faster than a teenager texting at the dinner table. He's saving more butts than a proctologist on overtime. Now, you'd think everyone would be jumping for joy, right? Well, not so fast. Some of the folks on the January 6th committee were more confused than a cat in a dog show. They're all like, do we need to accept these pardons? Is there a return policy? What if we already have plans that day? It's like they've never been pardoned before or something.
President Biden, in his final hours, his final morning in office, has issued several high-profile pardons.
Among those pardoned this morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, and the members and staff.
First reported President Biden, even yesterday, I'm told, was very seriously considering using this extraordinary presidential power to preemptively pardon some individuals. And this morning, as we are reporting,
who served on the House committee that investigated the January 6th attack on the Capitol, including Liz Cheney.
And police officers who have spoken out as well.
And of course, no political drama would be complete without a cameo from everyone's favorite troublemaker, Rand Paul. He's not too happy about Fauci getting a get-out-of-jail-free card. In fact, he's madder than a wet hen, saying it's proof that Fauci's guilty of, well, something about the pandemic. Because apparently, in Paul's world, getting pardoned is like pleading guilty. Who needs courts when you've got logic like that? But the real MVP of this whole shebang? That'd be General Milley. The guy's been serving Uncle Sam for over 4 decades, and he's not about to spend his golden years fighting off Trump's army of lawyers. He basically said, "Thanks for the pardon, Joe. I'd rather spend my time playing golf than playing courtroom tag with the MAGA crowd." Well, folks, it looks like Trump's having a temper tantrum bigger than his hairpiece. Our favorite orange troublemaker is throwing a fit that would make a toddler blush. He's threatening to lock up anyone who ever dared to say "cub thief" isn't a real word. But guess what? Biden's got a trick up his sleeve that's making Trump madder than a wet MAGA hat. So who made it onto Biden's "sorry, Trump, you can't touch this" list? It's like the guest list for the coolest party in D.C., and Trump's definitely not invited. First up, we've got Dr. Fauci, the guy who probably makes Trump's blood pressure spike every time he mentions science or facts. Poor Fauci's been dealing with more political drama than a season of House of Cards. He's basically said, look, these threats are about as real as Trump's natural tan. And Biden's like, don't worry, Doc, I've got your back. Then there's General Milley, who Trump's been calling names that would make a sailor blush. Milley's response, he's basically telling Trump, thanks, but no thanks. The guy's saying he doesn't want to spend his golden years playing dodge the Trump lawsuit. Can you blame him? He'd rather be working on his golf swing than his court game. But wait, there's more. Remember the January 6th committee, Trump's least favorite book club? Well, they're on the list too. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are probably breathing sighs of relief so big they could inflate Trump's ego. Cheney's all, thanks for noticing we were in actual danger, Mr. President. I mean, when you need a pardon just for doing your job, you know politics has gone crazier than a cat in